with a mini version of Off the Radar.
Yeah, let's touch on a couple of things here real quick. Bill Self has spoken to the media and did so at least yesterday and gave a positive update on how he's doing after his health scare that when did that happen? Was that Big 12 tournament right when that
Big
broke?
12
And
tournament.
then
the
obviously
day before,
affected March Madness as well. He said that he hasn't done a lot since the Big 12 tournament, but he exercises almost daily and said, I don't know if you guys can believe this. They told me I need to improve my diet and exercise more, which obviously plays into the issues he's facing. He said, I'm actually in the process of doing both and been pretty diligent at this time as far as the diet and exercise goes. My energy level's probably back to where it was prior to the episode, but not where it's getting ready to go, I believe. He said that he's 100% positive he will be coaching at the University of Kansas this upcoming season and hopefully many more after that. There was no way he could coach in the Big 12 tournament. Absolutely no way, he said. I thought I would coach against West Virginia, and they laughed at me. And then I said, well, I'll coach the next game, and they laughed at me. And they said, well, maybe you can coach in, 2 or 3 weeks. I said, no, I got to be able to go in 5 days. And obviously they felt that wasn't the best move for him. There was concern around elevated heart rate and the risk of his blood pressure elevating being a major concern. So if he was going to come back, would have had to have beaten Arkansas to give him a chance to. And obviously, he didn't return. So he's on the record now talking about, the whole incident. He went into further detail on it. He called it an out-of-body experience, didn't really know what was going on. It's not anything he'd ever experienced before. He just knew that he was in danger. Or he never felt he was in danger because he knew he had good people and good doctors and all that around him. So that's a blessing that he never had. I guess the scariest part of the whole ordeal. He had plenty of help. Said he missed his job and wants to do it for a very long time. Just reiterating kind of what I said earlier, he emphasized that he's not going anywhere, basically. He's doing better health-wise, and obviously there were too many issues preventing him from coaching in the tournaments. But Bill Self is going to be back, and hopefully for his sake and KU fans and just everybody, human beings, better than ever, and hopefully at Kansas for a very long time.
Okay, so does that mean Amanda gets to fly back to Texas?
Yeah. No, I brought this up to her yesterday, and I said, here's Bill Self's comments, and she's like, why is this even a thing? I never thought it was going to be. So somebody asked him, she got concerned that there was all. I said, no,
Isn't she the one that questioned his fortitude after they lost a game?
She was, I would say she was a little upset because I think the reporting on he might be able that might have been Bill telling someone and then someone going and telling him I'll be fine. But clearly you hear the doctors they're laughing at him.
I thought she was questioning his toughness.
Yeah, but that was on erroneous information. No,
that's what winning and losing will do to someone and how they think of a coach.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of TV ratings stuff, from the championship games. The women had a really great number for the final, and the men, had a better number than I expected at least. And I don't know, I never threw out a hard line. I didn't get so into it that I was like, I don't think they'll do this or do that or anything along those lines. But I did wonder aloud with that 9.9 million number from the women's side of, the fact that you had two not so huge brands. I mean, UConn's, they've obviously got a big fan base, and San Diego State had, history on their side. So maybe I underappreciated that a little bit. But, I did wonder, hey, are they going to easily surpass that 9.9 million? The game didn't tip till 9 o'clock basically. I mean, everybody was up late waiting for this thing to just even start. So you wondered how that would affect the ratings. And as we know, they went on to average about 14.69 million. So crushed the women's game by 5 million, despite any fears. But it is worth mentioning, and I didn't have all this in front of me a couple days ago when we brought it up, because we just kind of celebrated the fact that that's actually a better number than expected. But it was the lowest rated and least watched title game on record, down 15% from KU and North Carolina last year that had a little over 17 million. The previous low was just under $16 million for Villanova and Michigan, which was also a cable broadcast. Previous low was Baylor Gonzaga, which again, that was something we saw the number. We're like, hey, for Baylor, that's great. For Baylor Gonzaga, especially, that's great. And then you turn out like, oh, it's the lowest number on record or whatever. Well, hey, it's not any longer because now that's UConn San Diego State, but that's also two tiny fan bases in comparison to the norm of a Kansas or a North Carolina or whoever and who they're matching up with. So
I was surprised that number for Baylor Gonzaga because it was still in some places shut down. You know, still kind of a little bit of a,
you know, like I said
COVID
earlier, where you're
wobble.
going.
And it was a collision course between, without question, the 1 and 2 best teams in the country. But
and it was also turned into a blowout.
No, you're right.
And I'm sure that I'm not trying to butter it up or anything, but it did turn into a not so competitive game really as it went along. And you probably stay glued because you were a Baylor fan, just a basketball fan, you had money riding on it, or you enjoy ass kickings, or whatever the case may be. But it wasn't something that took you down to the buzzer. And neither did this game. So I'm sure that hurt it as well. But, yeah, just to put some perspective on it, better than I expected. Easily beat the women's game, but on record, the lowest
easily
ever.
beat the women's game, but still much closer with the numbers than ever before because the women's number was so high.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, just putting that out there. In San Diego State, we'll see what happens with them now moving forward as far as their potential entry into the Pac-12, which remains to be seen now. And I'll just one more, and then we'll head on out of here. Dana White on the